Joining us now is the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, also a Fox News contributor. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I just want to take one brief detour to say that I think President Trump's speech today at the UN is one of the most amazing of his career and is definitive in reasserting patriotism based on the nation state. And I would recommend everyone in the audience to read it. It is a remarkable speech.
Well, I'm going to actually do better than that. In the last hour of the show, I agree with you so much that I decided I'm going to air the speech in its entirety. Because
that's great.
What the president said about America, our role in the world, about socialism, about the different fascism that we face in today in Iran and North Korea, was a very powerful speech, maybe the best he's given, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm glad you're doing that. I just had to put that in. But let me say on the current mess, the only thing that is being tested on Thursday is whether a free society can be intimidated, brutalized, lied to, and driven from any kind of decency. Exactly what happened to Senator Ted Cruz and his wife last night at a restaurant. I mean, what you now have is a totalitarianism of the left. They know what's at stake in this case. This decision could put on the Supreme Court a solid conservative who, at his current age, if he were to stay on as long as Justice Ginsburg, he would still be writing decisions in 2050. And so the left is in a frenzy. They're literally melting down. And the New Yorker piece will be studied in history as one of the crudest and dumbest pieces of smear, because when you have a smear that is so dumb that even the New York Times couldn't find an excuse to print it, it actually undermines and exposes how desperate they are on the left. This is not about, in any way, about Judge Kavanaugh. This is not about somebody 35 years ago. This is a last stand of the hard left to scream and yell and you watch what it's like at the hearings. It's going to be a series of Spartacus moments as various left-wing Democrats cause trouble and disrupt the hearings. And I think it just tells you where people are at and what's going on.
The greatest evidence to me that this is about politics, and the greatest reason for me, too, that people have a right to be skeptical is, a month ago, the second in charge of the DNC was accused of repeated physical and emotional abuse of his girlfriend. As she tweeted out, the DNC not only abandoned her, they smeared, they slandered, and besmirched her. If they cared about the issue of what we're dealing with today, an assault, etc., like what Juanita Broderick said, well, I'll have an FBI investigation. I'll come and testify. Many of the same people that have been silent on Keith Ellison, that were the Clintons' biggest supporters, and in his case, it was exposing himself. In his case, it was groping, grabbing, fondling, touching, kissing against a woman's will in the Oval Office. One allegation of rape, yeah, it went back in time. But Democrats never came to the defense of any of these women. And therein lies the hypocrisy to me.
Well, it's also, I think you have to recognize that the emotional anguish as captured by Cory Booker in his so-called Spartacus moment, which I wrote about, pointing out that actually Spartacus was a slave who rebelled and was crucified, and that sitting in the comfort of the U.S. Senate, Cory Booker was a rather long distance from a Spartacus moment. But then he doesn't know any history, so why would he have known? It was a great phrase he picked up from watching a movie. The fact is that they are, on the left, they are so beside themselves because they think we're supposed to obey them. As one Democratic senator said, men should just shut up. Now, I thought that pretty clearly defined the modern left-wing Democratic Party. You and I don't have a right to speak by definition. I think the average American watching this just has to remind themselves, all of this coverage, all of this buildup is coming down to a phony hearing in which it is impossible to ultimately achieve a resolution. Because if you look at it, you have a 35-year-old allegation in which there are apparently no witnesses. None of the people who were supposed to be witnesses can remember it having happened. You have an absolute repudiation by Judge Kavanaugh, who was accused, and in that setting, you know, those of us who believe that you're innocent until proven guilty are going to go in and I suspect come out thinking, well, he clearly wasn't, he wasn't proven guilty. Those Democrats on the left who believe that by definition, if Donald Trump nominates you, you are guilty. I mean, they don't know what you're guilty of, but by definition, if Trump has nominated you, you're guilty of something. And that's sort of what we're faced with.
Well, the other thing, too, is, I mean, even her attorney has a political agenda, has donated tens and tens of thousands of dollars to Democratic candidates and causes. Interesting, when the Paula Jones case came up, this is what she said. It's a very, very weak case. She has alleged one incident that took place in a hotel room that by her own testimony lasted 10 to 12 minutes. She suffered no repercussions in the workplace. And then she goes on, clearly just a one-time incident took place 10 to 12 minutes. She was not forced to have sex. She left the room of her own volition. The courts are increasingly finding that is not enough to create a sexually hostile work environment claim. And literally, she went on to say about Al Franken, context is relevant. He didn't do this as a member of the U.S. Senate. He did this in his capacity as someone who was functioning as an entertainer. And I'm thinking, if you really care about the issue, aren't you going to be consistent? And one of the things that I have been saying is, okay, let this woman be heard. Let all the other people that have known Brett Kavanaugh be heard as well.
Right. And, of course, when you have 65 women co-sign a letter saying that they know him and that this can't be true, it's a pretty strong character witness.
Yeah, all true. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Newt Gingrich is with us. All right, as we continue, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich is with us. All right, so all of this is coming down on Thursday. Also, Rod Rosenstein, you've read the reports about him saying, should I wear a wire around the president, and talking about invoking the 25th Amendment. He says he was just joking and just kidding. My position, Mr. Speaker, may surprise you, considering I think Rod Rosenstein is so conflicted he never should have been where he is presently. But I think it's also a trap for the president, because if he fires him, you and I both know there'll be comparisons to a Saturday Night Massacre, and everybody will miss the point, because that's what the media now does.
Well, look, I think that the president's in an unusual position here, because what Rosenstein did was so stupid that it's almost indefensible. And I think they'll probably have a conversation, and my guess is that Rod will say, gee, he's really sorry, it was really stupid, he really didn't mean it, and they'll go on. But on the other hand, I actually think there's not much risk in this case if the president said, gee, I just don't see how you can work here given what you've done, because immediately the Solicitor General would be in charge of managing Mueller, and I don't think in that sense it would be quite like the Watergate Saturday Night Massacre. Nobody in the Watergate setting was as outrageous as Rosenstein was in his comments.
Let me ask you this.
It's really quite extraordinary.
We're only 42 short days away from Election Day, and I think it's such an important midterm. I really can't give you I don't have any sense yet where this is going. What do you think?
I think it depends on the Republicans. If they run a big choice campaign, we just saw this happen. I wrote about it the other day. In Texas, they went all out. They with the Lieutenant Governor doing a great job of putting it together and helping. They won a special election for a Senate seat on the border with Mexico.
139 years.
Yeah, 139 years. And they did it by drawing a clear, decisive choice. If Republicans around the country have the courage to draw a clear, decisive choice, they will run a shocking election, and election night 2018 will be as stunning as election night 2016. But it takes the courage of somebody like Trump to go out and force the issues, draw the clear contrast. He's been doing a great job if you follow him in these various rallies. He's really laying out what the choice is. If every Republican did that, they'd win a big election.
All right, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to see you tonight on Hannity, 9 Eastern on the Fox News Channel. Thanks for being with us.